During Lent, we focused on the borders that surround us. Pastor Helen taught us about the imaginary borderlines that break up families and criminalize victims seeking asylum. Pastor Natalie preached an incredible word on the power dynamics at play within reconciliation, the importance of conflict, and how accountability goes hand in hand with healthy relationships. Thanks to David's incredible storytelling, we heard how our ancients of faith spoke their grievances and marked their version of reconciliation through heaping stones. Laban really blasting his side of the story, well, doesn't seem to take much credit for his own accountability of his actions. But we'll give the guy some grace, because Laban teaches us how important it is to speak our truth, to be messy and honest, to have petty arguments over who gets to name the pile of stones. By the way, y'all, both mean a pile of stones that bear witness. One is in Aramaic and one is in the more traditional Hebrew. It's the same name. But before we go further, I want to address a potential elephant in the room. So first confession of the day. Sometimes I feel like a fake standing in front of y'all. While wearing a clerical robe is a beautiful symbol that I cherish, at times, it feels like I'm a 30-year-old kid playing dress up in my parents' clothes. And today, I just need to feel as me as possible as we wrestle with this text. So I'm showing up in what makes me feel brave and authentically me. No robes, no playing pretend, just a trans boy standing in front of you in their favorite suspenders and Vans. Now that that is out of the way, let's get back to John. One of my favorite facts about this first letter of John is actually a translation choice for the adjective describing love. While this is a nerdy point of order, it actually transformed how I understand these iconic verses, especially verses 17 and 18. So hear Dr. Gaffney's translation of these two verses once more. Verse 17. Love has been perfected among us in order that we may have boldness on the day of judgment. Because as God is, so are we in this world. There is no fear in love, rather perfect love casts out fear, for fear relates to punishment, and whoever fears has not yet reached perfection in love. Perfect love casts out fear. Whoever fears has not reached perfection. In our world, perfection has a very different implication than the Greek word teleos really implies. While my hang-ups on perfection is warped by unattainable expectations, teleos is about wholeness or maturity. Think of a plant growing up to its full potential after being securely buried in rich and fertile soil. A teleos love is a love made whole not by fear or punishment, but by its own coming of age and maturity. Unfortunately, for most of my life, I heard these verses as a mandate to be perfect, to always say the right thing at the right time, to know everyone else's needs before they ask, to put everyone else ahead of me in order to be worthy of their love. I believed the myth that if I could be perfect, then I would be lovable. But perfection isn't what love is actually about, is it? Today, I am breaking up with some of the ways that I have spent my life compressing and distorting myself to be perfect for everyone else. Call it a breakup letter with people-pleasing or an ode to wholeness. Here are some masks that I have worn in my pursuit of perfection. Dear anger, you did it! After years of being told that we would never be a pastor, here we are. It wasn't easy, and I think you secretly liked it that way. You took every no as a challenge. Every barrier was simply the next Everest to climb to prove your worth. You fed a constant fire that blazed within me whenever yet another white man tried to silence me, or whenever his wife tried to make me conform by showing how the shackles chafe a little bit less if you don't pull at them quite so hard. Anger, you kept me going through my breakup with the ethics of my upraising. Remember how our college commencement speaker was Miss Green from Hobby Lobby, and how Oklahoma Baptist University gave her an honorary doctorate of ethics for denying birthing people bodily autonomy and reproductive rights? But then 3 years later, Hobby Lobby had to pay a $3 million fine for stealing artifacts from an ancient city in Iraq. Good times. Good times. And anger, I know you meant well, but your flames consumed me. Rage became a full-time job with no benefits. And truth be told, I think I burned more people than I loved. So thank you for being there for me, but this just isn't working out. Dear ego, it was easier back then to keep fighting. It was so satisfying to take hit after hit just to prove the naysayers wrong. I took the world's definition of success and did everything that I could to beat the system at its own game. Degree after degree, internship after internship, job after job. I followed America's patriarchal capitalistic version of success just to try to prove I'm worthy of someone's respect. Somewhere along the line, I started to believe, thanks to you, oh ego, that I was the problem, and proving myself was the solution. Because I thought everyone else's praise was the goal. But the hits kept coming, and they don't stop coming. Not even when my egotistical walls were so strong and surrounding my heart. Eventually, I stopped asking for my needs to be met. I accepted partial appreciation rather than holistic love. Ego, the role you played turned out to simply be a mask that once removed reveals how scared I really am to be rejected and hurt again. Which leads me to, dear fear, you became my constant shape-shifting companion. My fear of being too much for people, fear of disappointing the people who took a risk on loving me, fear of the state of the world, fear of this state, fear of failure, fear that I am a failure. So fear, you and I did what we do best. We shrank. We built mind palaces to escape when things get hard. We flee to those catacombs whenever conflict comes to visit. We shrank so much that even asking for my pronouns to be used correctly feels like I'm taking up way too much space. Perfectionism and conforming for everyone else's comfort became a game to play in order to keep everyone else happy. But fear, you and I need to break up. I appreciate what you've done. You've helped me stay vigilant, but the constant anxiety is no longer serving me. And I get it, risking rejection and finding a place to call home with wide open spaces and room to breathe is scary. But shrinking to make room for others has left us withered. You've kept me safe, but to love is to risk, and to risk is to be alive. And I'd really like to be alive. Dear Milo, I think it's time to trust. I think it's time to bury our roots deep into the soil of community. To trust that those who are surrounding us have had their own fair shares of life's difficulties. What if we tried leaning into a love that isn't about perfection? Milo, what if we tried showing up as our full self? Our messy, ADHD, trans, they, them using self. What if we planted ourselves fully into our identity without apology or compromise? What if we believe that we are worthy of dignity, love, and respect, with no need to jump through hoops to prove it? Dear UBC, you have already taught me so much. In the year that we've already spent together, I have experienced more support than I ever thought possible. The world makes it easy to believe that you and I aren't worthy of love. But we are the church with open doors, a community rooted in faith as colorful and hopeful as a rainbow after a storm. Y'all have welcomed me into your lives, your homes, into your questions, your fears, your doubts, and your dreams. I know that we make mistakes. We aren't perfect, and thank God that we're not. Because I believe that we are a home where love can grow. So church, I promise to keep showing up as myself. I promise to strive to be unapologetically me, and I hope that y'all do the same. Beloveds, we all have breakup letters that we need to write to ourselves. Where has perfectionism held you back from diving deep into community and relationship with one another? Where has fear of being too much or not enough kept you back from risking love? I challenge all of us to take a look at our closets and see what masks that we use as coping mechanisms to make it through life. Fear, anger, and ego are just a few of mine, and Lord knows I am still a work in progress. But I am convinced that love grows wild when we stop pretending that we're anything other than our true selves. For God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. Love has been made whole among us in order that we may have boldness on the day of judgment, because as God is, so are we in this world. There is no fear in love. Rather, holistic love, rooted and mature, casts out fear. And beloveds, we love because God loved us first. So may we be our whole quirky selves, trusting our community to support the real us. May we make mistakes. May we bicker about naming a pile of stones. May we practice loving each other in all of our holy messiness. May we believe that if we're too much for someone, then they can go find less. May perfectionism be damned, and may our love be real.